All right, howdy there. My name's Connor Whitney. Welcome along to Vols on Deck. This is a summertime podcast, project, whatever you want to call it. We'll be looking kind of at the Tennessee baseball transfer portal. At some point, we'll get along and look at how some of Tennessee baseball's returning players are performing in the summertime through Cape Cod. We'll look at Cam Appenzeller, Trent Grenlinger, how those guys are doing. Just check in on all things Tennessee baseball for the summertime. Glad you could be part of this, of course. Tennessee has been working hard in the transfer portal. So, more or less, today is going to be focusing on the transfer portal, specifically the pitching they've added in the transfer portal class. At this point, it's a really, really strong class. Should be very excited about some of the arms Tennessee could potentially have. Of course, a few of those guys are MLB draft risks, and yet if Tennessee can get those guys to campus, there should be a lot of excitement as to what Tennessee can bring and what these guys can bring to the Tennessee pitching staff. Of course, now we'll get to a few of the guys. Probably the one name that we won't really touch on today we would be Braden Kersey. Of course, he's the two-way player from Mercer, but I think personally he will probably end up being more of like a power bat. I don't know how much runway he will get as a true pitcher. We'll get to his arsenal as time goes on. It just won't be today. Today will be more focused on the true guys that we know that we will see on the mound, of course, provided that some of these guys will get to campus, but we know at least one of these guys will get to campus. But in any case, when you look at last year's pitching staff, a lot of it was, and a lot of the contributions came from new guys from the transfer portal specifically. They did really, really good work in the transfer portal. I thought they just didn't really have the depth that they needed. Ultimately, to kind of have a really long run in the postseason. The offense was good, but the pitching staff, it was very top heavy. It didn't really have the depth that they needed in order to really compete with, those big teams. So, you look at what they added through the portal last year. I mean, they got Evan Blanco, Landon Mack, two guys who ended up being really valuable parts or pieces to their weekend rotation. Of course, you had Evan Blanco, who ended up getting the start in game one of the regional, was more of their Sunday starter this year. But man, he was so good. I mean, when he was on, his fastball was located. He was just mowing through guys. But he was so valuable because he could find a way to fight through innings and outings, even if he didn't really have his great stuff. If he was getting kind of knocked around, he has found a way to battle through 5 or 6 innings. And he gave you quality, he gave you a chance to win. Landon Mack, I think, another guy, he's very, very exciting because of his fastball. I mean, he can throw 97, 99. He's got a real good slider, and he put it together at some junctions last year. Like everybody remembers how good he was against LSU. And that start, that really kind of, suggested that he could really be the guy. And, he wasn't really able to recapture that. Of course, finished last year with a little bit of elbow inflammation, I believe is what was officially called by the coaching staff. But, year 2 for Mac, especially with Austin Knight, the new pitching coach, there's a lot to be excited about there and what he brings to the staff. So you already have that piece kind of set from last year's transfer portal acquisitions. We know Bo Rudy ended up being, I think, probably the most valuable arm out of the bullpen, either him or Brandon Arvidsson. But, Rudy really emerged late in the season. I still remember sitting in Boshamer Stadium in Chapel Hill, for the regional. And I mean, Rudy, he was just out there. He was just competing. I mean, compete was Josh Elander's probably favorite word to use all year long. But that guy was just battling. I mean, through career high in innings in that game. His fastball was really, really good. I mean, it was 91, 93 most of the year, but again, spin and his ability to kind of live in the very top of the zone, that was his bread and butter. I mean, he was so good in that game. And, I thought he deserved to win that game. Vols just couldn't, push the winning run across. But you look at what Rudy was able to provide for you in the bullpen last year: 3.38 and 23 appearances, 3 saves, and 32 innings pitched. He was just so effective as a transfer and ended up being one of the more reliable arms of the bullpen. Again, next to it was him and Brandon Arvidsson. And then you look at other guys that they added. They added, Brady Frederick, who was he was kind of effective, more so in midweeks, in the weekends. He got prone to not get knocked around a little bit, but again, with Brady, he can still be effective just because of his style and his throwing motion is so unorthodox. It's not a conventional arm to deal with because of his submarine style. It creates such deception, and it can be a real problem. I mean, if you have a guy like Brady coming in after a guy like Landon's been dominating, and suddenly you have to deal with 83 from a low arm slot, and then after that, I mean, imagine getting another guy in there that can throw that 96, 97 miles an hour fastball. I mean, it's just such a tough situation to deal with. I mean, he's going to be more of a contact guy just because of that. And he's a guy that can maybe that if he's generating that weak contact, and if he's locating his stuff and living low in the zone, he can be a really really valuable piece. He just needs to locate his stuff better. But in terms of the deception that he brings to the table, he brings a lot of value there. It's just a matter of, can he find that consistency? And then they also had Mark Hindy, but he was a low leverage guy, 7.15 in 18 appearances. So more of a low leverage guy. But when you look at what that class brought, it was a lot of value. It was a lot of there was a lot of intrigue. Again, they got 2 starters out of it. They ended up getting a really, really valuable reliever, a high leverage guy, and you have a mid leverage guy. So they found some really, really good arms. They just, again, couldn't really piece it together with the guys that they did have and brought back, or perhaps some of the freshmen that they brought in. So they have a really, really interesting situation where they do need to bring in arms. And I really like the way that Josh Elander and company have attacked the pitching staff of the transfer portal. Of course, you already have commitments from Landon Mack coming back and Cam Appenzeller coming back, and Bioto and Haas. Those are guys that were younger guys in the case of Haas and Bioto that have intriguing stuff. They just need to figure out how to put it together. And with Haas, I mean, Haas is such an interesting guy. His fastball plays up. We all saw how effective he was against South Carolina in the SEC tournament. He had a really, really good outing there. So what he can bring. The reports from Cape Cod are that Ethan Bioto looks really strong. So you're already seeing those guys take those steps. So it's just a matter of, okay, well, how can they add and supplant the talent that they do have and the development that they have and that they're expecting, especially with Austin Knight now coming in from East Carolina. How can Tennessee supplant what they currently do have and really give themselves a much stronger and more deep pitching staff? And they've added to this point 4 arms that are really, really compelling for different reasons. Guys I think can be difference makers. So first is Brody Trosclair from Northwestern State, 5-1 last year, 38 innings pitched, 55 strikeouts in those innings to just 11 walks. That tells you in itself right there what he can bring and be. What he brings to the table. He's got wipeout stuff. He's got swing and miss. He can miss bats. The problem is that he went down in the middle of the season with an elbow injury, which is always scary to deal with. It's a pitcher's worst nightmare. So for him, how does he look coming back from what he ended up getting, that internal brace surgery? So his fastball, curveball, changeup. He told WBIR he expects to be back by opening day. I'm not so sure about that. And what I mean by that is, could he be available by opening day? Sure. I don't think there's any need to rush him back. You want him to be ready to go by really by SEC play. You want him ready to go. I mean, when you have a guy who has 189 like Tros Clare did, I mean, you know what he can bring to the table. He's a lefty. He can attack guys, and the results show that he can be a really really effective guy. So to me, what you want is you just want him to get healthy, but you don't really want to rush him back off of injury, especially a young guy coming off freshman season, going to be a sophomore year, draft eligible, I believe, in 28. So again, it's a deal where you don't really want to rush him back. You just want to get him comfortable in his body, and you want to get him to a point where he feels really good and really confident. Now, the nice thing about Trusclair is that he could be multiple roles. You could have him as a late inning guy, or he could end up competing in the middle of the season for a weekend spot if there's some ineffectiveness from somebody. His two best starts right before he got injured, back to back, was New Orleans and of course Nicholls State. 13 innings across those two starts. He gave up 11 hits, 4 walks, 4 earned runs, but the big thing is the 20 strikeouts. That's big. When you see the strikeout numbers, you see that he's missing bats. He has that swing and miss ability. He can locate, and he's got good command, and he's really just attacking the zone. That's really what you want to see from these young guys is how do they attack the zone? How do they attack hitters? And if he's not afraid to attack the zone and he's not really issuing those free passes, making guys earn it, that's another feather in your cap. That's just one more reason to have confidence in a young guy like Tros Clare. That's why he can be so good. He could also be, that long inning, that the long guy, or like that piggyback. I mean, think about the way Cam Appenzeller was used this past season. He was more of like a piggyback guy, and then eventually there were points where he was asked to pick up a start here and there. But like I think of Appenzeller and his and what he did in Duty Noble Field and shutting it down, or I think it was 4 or 5 innings, and ended up finishing the game and getting the win on a Friday. It was Friday night, but it was such a valuable. It was so valuable for Appenzeller to give that, not just the team because he got the win, but he saved the rest of the bullpen for the rest of the weekend. That gave Josh Nylander that flexibility. So if you can have a guy like Tros Clare that comes out of the bullpen and gives you those 4 or 5 innings, and then keeps it close, or gives you those quality, those competitive innings that keeps the team close, especially when you look at what the offense is going to have next year. You give them a chance, that can be valuable. So he can be available in multiple different roles. Of course, you're going to want to see how those guys compete and work for those roles. But I think with Tros Clare, there's something really, really intriguing there. Ricky Ojeda, the guy from UC Irvine, the Anteaters. Man, he was really, really good last year. Again, 11 relief appearances. And then 18 appearances over the course of the season, 7 starts, 11 relief appearances. Really shifted more to that relief role in conference play. He was really, really good. So in those 11 relief appearances, 31 and 2/3 innings, 1.99 earned run average. He had 3 saves. He was really, really effective. This is a guy who's spent multiple years as a reliever, a guy that I think could be really, really valuable in those late innings. A guy that has a proven track record of getting those big outs late in the game. He can get you those. He can give you, of course, those multi-inning relief appearances, and it can give you those multiple times in a weekend. You feel so he's a really intriguing guy that I think Tennessee could really, really use. Another guy that could fit that kind of Appenzeller or that Brandon Arvidsson role. Of course, Tennessee had 2 big lefties in the bullpen last year. Arvidsson, of course, graduating, and then with Appenzeller being shifted probably towards the weekend rotation, that leaves 2 spots in the bullpen that need to be filled. And Ojeda could be one of those guys that could be really, really valuable. Now he's a very interesting pitch mix. He doesn't seem overpowering because on the radar gun he's like 90 to 93 miles an hour. And Bo Rudy was kind of the same way last year as well. Again, you think about what Rudy brought to the table. Rudy was really just that fastball heavy guy. He's going to live at the very top of the zone. He's going to throw that heater. He's going to try to get swing and miss. And one of the things that was so valuable with Rudy was that his fastball had such great spin and it held its plane for so long. It had such good life. And when you have that late life, sure, you don't need to be throwing 90, 97, 98 because your 93 is going to play up more and more. And it's going to be so much more effective because of that. That's how Rudy was successful with Ojeda. Could be a bit of the same deal. I've also scouts also say it could be also that the extension that he gets, which again just helps his fastball play up more, just that much more. So with Ojeda, when you look at his profile and you look at some of his outings, he's going to live at the very very top of the zone. That's where he's going to get his swing and miss. So he's going to be very like when I say very top, I mean like very very top of the zone. He can't be like middle third or even like the middle fourth, middle half of the plate. He's very very top of the zone that he lives. That's where he gets his swing and miss. That's where he's really really effective. That's where he gets a lot of his strikeouts. That's so he's going to get some pop ups as well. So the big thing is how does that translate into SEC play? Now, of course, he is a draft risk, so he might not get to campus. But if he does, he's a guy that you would feel really comfortable in that late inning role. He also did have a handful of starts last year. Great start against Oregon. Great start, 7 innings, 2 runs, just the 4 Ks, but really really battled. Was really, really effective against a team that went to super regionals last year. So you know that he can hold his own against really, really good teams and really, really good competition. Question is, can he do it against consistently better competition? So again, we talked about how good his fastball is. He needs to be living at the top of the zone. Does have a curveball. His curveball is very, very big difference in the velocity, which is something three. His curveball is 60 bend. So that's something that again that just helps his fastball play up even more. Because if he has guys deceived or way out in front of the curveball, and if his curveball can develop and take that next step, then he becomes such an even more effective guy. He can use his curveball to change eye levels. He can attack more up and down in the zone. He just needs to work, I think, his command on his curveball, the ability to consistently land it in the zone for strikes or bury it in the dirt. That's where he's going to have more value. And again, if he can improve his curveball command, that just improves his fastball all that much more because he's going to catch guys guessing. He can work, and he can tunnel those pitches together and be really, really effective. So the big thing is, can he improve his secondary offering? And then he does have a changeup as well. There were some times where his changeup, and this is concerning, his changeup would miss up in the zone or just high. And that's not where you want to be missing with a changeup. Changeup, you're gonna want to hit throw low in the zone. You're gonna want to throw it for him. It would be down and away to the righty. That way you can get that weak contact. So if he's in a situation where he needs a double play ball or a ground ball, he can throw the changeup down and away, and he can get what he needs in order to get out of a jam. So, for me, the concern there with the changeup is, can he develop it and get better command of it? If he can live more down in the zone and nail that, down and away or that down and in, situation on that arm side of the plate, then his changeup is going to be so much more better, which just adds to the arsenal and gives the hitter one more thing to think about. So the big thing to me is, can he consistently land the changeup down or low out of the zone to get that swing and miss or get that weak contact. Because if he's missing up, it's not going to generate weak contact. It's going to get hit. It's going to get hit pretty hard in the SEC. A lot of guys are going to sit on that changeup and hit it really, really hard. So again, he can be a really, really good late inning guy and be a great option in the late innings. The question to me is how does his stuff translate to the SEC? How does how can he handle the pressure of dealing with consistently better lineups? And can he improve his secondary stuff and have it take off so that he can be so much more effective in those late innings? That's what I really want to see. So, one of the other names that is interesting to me is Parker Detmers. So, he is coming off of Tommy John surgery. March 2025 is when he had it. So, he didn't pitch at all last year. Four appearances in 2025, so his most recent season that we have him available. 16 innings pitched, 394, 15 Ks to four walks. So Detmers is he's fastball, curveball. Curveball's got good tilt. His fastball, last I saw, tops at 95, but I think he's probably going to live more towards that 91 to 93. If the name Detmer sounds familiar, yeah, he is the little brother of Reed Detmers, and he also went to the same high school as Cam Appenzeller. So interesting there. So Detmers is interesting. He has good experience. He can start. He has starter experience. Yeah, he was going to be a starter for Louisville before he went down with injury. He could be a guy that's going to compete for that weekend rotation spot. To me, though, I think he'll probably end up closer as a right-handed reliever. Like I said, 91, 93 with the fastball, but he can top at 95, and his curveball. His curveball's got really good movement to it. Probably mid to lower 80s with the curveball. Looks like more of a one to two pitch, more like two pitch pitcher. So if he's going to be competing for when you have a starter versus a reliever, really the big thing is, relievers are going to have more two pitches. Your starter's going to have three. Detmers to me profiles probably more as a right-handed reliever, just because I just see just fastball and curveball. But it can be. But again, if he takes a big step in his development with Austin Knight, there's something there. Now he should be season ready. He does have a little bit of work recently with the MLB Draft League. Um, 7 1/3 innings, 10 strikeouts to 5 walks, but a 6.14. I think he could really, really benefit from a year with a big with you know Tennessee specifically. I think he would benefit from being with Austin Knight, and he has a prove it year to me. I think he's a guy that could really really use a year where he delivers strong results. And again, I think it could be out of the bullpen and maybe will be out of the bullpen. But with Detmers, what I want to see him do, and what you really want to see is how is his command, how is he attacking the zone? Post injury, is his stuff playing up? Is he confident? There are some questions there, so I just want to see his stuff kind of take off post surgery, but I don't know. I think he's an interesting guy, but I think he's going to be more in the mix of a reliever role just based off the profile that I see. But he can always take a big step, and he could always have a really really good fall, and be a guy that factors in to the weekend rotation and could be a high leverage guy for against righties, or be a big piece of the back end of the bullpen. The guy that to me excites me the most is probably Jake McCoy. McCoy, now he's another guy that's coming off of injury. He had Tommy John in January, so he missed all of this season, didn't pitch, and his results. If you look at his 2025, 6.90 earned run average in 60 innings in with South Carolina, that, the results maybe not look very good, but he has such intriguing stuff. Like his stuff can be really, really good. His fastball is really good. His slider, I think, is wipeout. He could really stand to add another a confident third offering to his arsenal. Maybe a changeup. I think he's working on a changeup, but to me, he's got a really interesting profile. The command is a big problem. So 46 walks, 17 hit batters in 2025. That was the big concern, is the free passes. How often is he handing out walks? But when you watch him throw and when you watch him against teams like Clemson, I mean, the stuff the stuff's really, really, really good. His fastball is going to hover probably closer to 92 to 95. He can reach back and dial up 97. And his slider's really, really good. Like when you pair his slider and his fastball together, you got two really intriguing pitches. I mean, his slider's plus. He gets such great swing and miss with his slider, and that's what leads to in 60 innings in 25, he had 77 strikeouts. Like he's generating the swing and the miss. The problem is just the command. Like if he cuts down on the free passes, you have a guy who's generating a lot of swing and miss, and a guy who can strike guys out. He can miss bats or generate that weak contact that you're looking for. I mean, if he cuts down on it, to me, he profiles as a weekend starter. I really believe that. I think he's so intriguing as a starter. And before he got injured, he pitched in Cape Cod last year. He was really, really good. 12 and a third innings, 25 strikeouts, 3 walks. What about the hit batters? 3 hit batters, 146 earned run average. That tells you just how effective he can be. And again, you talk about Cape Cod. It's one of the most prestigious summer leagues. Some of the best collegiate baseball players across the country are going to Cape Cod and pitching or playing and hitting really, really well. I mean, you have Cam Appenzeller's out there, Trent Grinlinger's out there. I mean, those are both guys that are looking really, really strong. Tyler Myatt's, hitting the ball all over the ballpark again in Cape Cod for the second year in a row. So again, for a guy like McCoy, he's facing really, really good hitters, and he was really effective against them last year. So to me, he's got really, really good stuff. He just has to hone in his command. It looked like he was going to have a breakout year this season for South Carolina, but of course he gets injured. So now for McCoy, if Tennessee gets into campus, I think there's a great chance that he ends up as one of the weekend starters, just because again he has such great stuff. It plays up really well, or maybe he ends up as like a closer. I don't know, but personally, I really think the stuff is there. I think he could really use a strong year for Tennessee to boost his draft stock. So from that perspective, obviously there's a little bit of selfishness there, but you look at what the stuff that he has that experience against really, really tough teams like a Mississippi State, like an LSU, when LSU was, going on to win the national championship in 2025. So, his stuff is really likable. The experience is really, really good. The question is, can he put it all together, hone in his command, and really assert himself as a guy? And I think, look, it's a small sample size from Cape Cod, but again, with all the talent that you have in the Cape Cod Baseball League consistently every single summer, when I see what he brings and what he's delivered in those small in those small results, there's something there that tells me he can be really, really effective. And again, in that weekend role is where I think he could really shine. And again, Tennessee right now, they have Cam Appenzeller and they have Landon Mack. You would probably pencil those guys in to your weekend starter spots. You need a third. To me, Jake McCoy could very easily be that guy next year. So that's four guys right there that Tennessee has added in the transfer portal from the pitching staff. And a couple things to kind of think about. So with McCoy, Ojeda, and Trosclair, that's three lefties right there. And when you look at some of the guys that they already are bringing back in Kim Appenzeller and Will Haas and Chandler Day, so now you had three more guys, and then of course you have a couple of kids coming up in the high school class. Their lefty depth, I think, is really, really good. So now they could have multiple lefty guys in the rotation, and then they could still have multiple left-handed arms available in high leverage situations if they can get those guys to develop. But again, when you factor in Trosclair coming back, when you factor in McCoy when he's going to come back, McCoy will probably be back with the Tommy John surgery timeline. He should be ready early in the season. It's still TBD on. Of course, he is a draft risk, so if he makes it to campus again, when is he going to be available? Probably early on in the season, you would hope by SEC play. But again, you look at what the arms that they have available to them, and you're looking at, I think, really, really high quality and really, really confident arms that you can put in and you can mix and match. Maybe they can go righty lefty, But the big thing is they're going to have depth and they're going to be competing for spots. They're going to naturally make each other better, you would imagine. And again, with Austin Knight into the fold as the new pitching coach, how much better is their stuff going to be? And how much more are they going to develop? And then the other thing that I take away is you have three of those guys that are coming off of elbow surgery. Trosclair had the internal brace surgery. Detmer's coming off of Tommy John. McCoy coming off of Tommy John. So that to me begs a question: why would Tennessee gamble on guys that are coming off of significant injury? Because again, with the elbow, even with how good and how usually durable and reliable these elbow reconstructions are, or these elbow repairs are, however you want to call it, there's always a concern to me about what these guys look like coming off of injury. How quickly can they shake off the rust? How quickly can they rediscover their life? How quickly can these guys get past the mental block and return to form and get back to that dominant form that they displayed pre-surgery? So with Trosclair, again, he wants to be ready by opening day, but I think it's better if they have him, ready closer towards SEC play. I think that works better for him. That gives him more time. You don't want to rush him. You don't want to rush any of these guys back with the nature of the repairs. You never want to rush these guys back. Detmers, he's probably going to be ready based off of based off the timeline of when he got his surgery. He should be throwing in the fall, so they'll have a pretty good idea of what he brings to the table. So it'll be a lot quicker for Austin Knight to get to work with him and to work on any changes to his arsenal, the way he attacks. So Knight should be able to more quickly work with Detmers on what he can be and change some things around that he wants to be changed. It's McCoy that, it's a little bit more because of a longer wait, because again, with his surgery being in January, being the Tommy John surgery, reportedly, he's probably looking at, that 12, 13, 14 months. So It could be March when he returns, which again puts you right about SEC play. So if he's ready by then, you feel really confident, and he just adds another arm and another layer. And he might struggle those first couple outings. Same with Claire, but what he brings, as he gets more confident into the season, I think he'll be much, much better. So not only are you bringing in guys as well that are coming off of injury, but these are guys that are looking to prove something. Specific, Tros Claire, he's draft eligible 28. He wants to put together two really, really good seasons, for scouts and for other professional teams, to say, hey, I can be a really, really valuable arm. McCoy, you know, could a team gamble on him and say, hey, we just believe in the stuff, and we're just going to take a chance on him? It's possible, but I think he could really benefit from another year of collegiate baseball. And if he has a really, really good year, he could very easily jump from like a mid-round guy or a late round guy to be an early round guy. You look at, some of the Tennessee's, past guys, Tanner Franklin went early, last year because he had such great stuff, right? And with McCoy, he's got that crossfire. He's got a little bit of deception from the left side. Again, he's got that plus fastball and that plus breaking ball offering that, is so enticing, but you just want to see him put it together against competition in the SEC. And if he does that, if he has a really, really good year, it's going to benefit Tennessee, but it's also going to benefit him, and his draft stock is going to skyrocket potentially. So to me, I think it's really, really fascinating that Tennessee has gone after not one, not two, but three guys coming off of injury. Each guy is going to come off, come up, looking to prove something, looking to improve their draft stock, looking to really assert themselves and compete. And that's really all you can ask for. So it's really exciting. Again, a few of these guys, Ojeda is a draft concern, McCoy is a draft concern. But if you get these guys to campus, it could add some really, really good arms and quality arms to the back end of the Tennessee bullpen that they desperately need. After last year, they didn't have that depth at times, and they didn't have enough arms consistently to get them through a weekend. So a lot of excitement to look forward to. I think this could be a really, really good pitching transfer class. I still want to see them add maybe one more or two more arms to the bullpen, specifically from the right side. There's guys that can come in and compete. You always worry about, the draft risks and, guys that may, you get these commits now, but they don't make it to campus because they get drafted and then they sign on the dotted line and they go start their pro career. So I think if you can add a couple more relief arms, that really mitigates the risk, and that softens the blow in case you do lose any of these guys to pro baseball. So that's what I think so far of what Tennessee has added to the pitching side of their transfer class. It's also been a really, really good hitting class that they've added to this point. We'll look at those guys and the rest of the group next time on Vols on Deck. So thanks for listening.